Hello, I'm Joan Landis, and I'm really glad to be with you today. Today we're going to talk about a simple way to understand your own emotions and the emotions of others. I really like this model because it's very accessible, people can understand it, and the great thing about it is it creates a lot of compassion for ourselves and for others when we're kind of doing unhealthy things. All right, so one of the things that we can use to understand our world of emotions is that our physical world is very much like our emotional world. So I like to use this metaphor. So on the outside of our physical world is the atmosphere, right? And it's the wind, it's the rain, it's the tornadoes, it's the sunshine, it's the lightning. And that's the environment. That's the environment that we live in. And so in our environment, we can have stressors and triggers, forces, events, influences that just kind of influence us or trigger us to have what we call a presenting behavior. The second layer is our presenting behaviors. And our presenting behaviors are just ways that we act out. And we're going to go into this more later, but I'm just introducing the concept to you. Now, if all we do is try to influence behavior on a behavioral level, we really are not going to be very successful. For instance, if you have a family member that's looking at porn and viewing porn a lot, and that is a problem, if you just say to them, I'll pay you $10 every day that you don't look at porn, that's more of a superficial approach, what we call a behavioral approach to changing the behavior. And my experience has been that that's not very effective because really that presenting behavior is simply a symptom of the next layer below. Okay, so just like the world has a layer below the crust of the earth, so the next layer is kind of like the area below the earth or the ocean, and that's where we have what we call secondary emotions. Okay, now secondary emotions are the ones that we act out. These are the ones that we can talk about and they're culturally acceptable. We're going to talk about what these are a little in the next lesson, but I'm just letting you know that the secondary emotions are what drive the presenting behaviors, okay? But even the secondary emotions, that is not the end of the story, because what drives the secondary emotions are even below that, and that's called the primary emotions. The primary emotions are very tender. We don't talk about these very much, even to our best friends, and they're things that we are pretty vulnerable about. And so our primary emotions are things that we just don't want to go there. And so in therapy, it takes a certain amount of trust a lot of times for my clients to be able to go to their primary emotions, but it's very, very important because our primary emotions are what generate our secondary emotions, and our secondary emotions are what generate our kind of unhealthy behavior. But even that layer of primary emotions is not the end of the story, because what's underneath the layer of primary emotions is what we call our core issues. Our core issues are just like the core of the earth. It's very hot, very under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of lava and magma in there, and so our core issues are very hot. They're very boiling. They're very kind of hair trigger, and when those core issues get triggered, it can create like a volcano that goes from the core issues clear, boom, 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 through all the layers, out into the presenting behaviors in a volcano, okay? And that volcano is big, and that volcano can change the appearance of the whole landscape. So when we understand that our core issues are what really drive our primary emotions, secondary emotions, and our presenting behaviors, then we can kind of have a better understanding of what we can do to change our behavior. We don't have to stay on the outside. We can go down some layers and actually say, whoa, what core issues are driving all these emotions and behaviors, right? So core issues basically are unresolved questions or doubts we have about ourselves because of negative events in our past. So maybe when we were a kid, we had a negative event happen to us. Maybe we had some trauma. And it left us with questions or doubts about ourselves at our very core. And when our core issues, whatever they are, get triggered, man, we can have a big reaction. Why? Because we never really healed those core issues. They're just boiling underneath the surface. And it does not take much to trigger a big volcano up on the surface. So we're going to go into the specifics of those in the next course, but in the next lesson, but I just wanted to present this idea to you, this model, because one of the reasons I love this model is that it lets us know that what generates bad behavior very often is pain at our core that we have not processed well, okay? And that these painful core issues are things that they hurt so bad. It's almost like being emotionally sunburned, right? And just think how if you're not sunburned, someone can come up and slap you, it's no big deal. But if you're emotionally sunburned and you've had some heat damage there, just one little touch can make a big flinch, right? And that's how core issues are. That if we have core issues around certain topics, boy, if someone messes with that, triggers it, pokes it, prods it, wow, we are going to have a big reaction. We will have volcanoes in our day, and people around us will not understand what happened. But with this new way of thinking about emotions, it's very simple, that we can have compassion on ourselves when we act badly and have volcanoes in our day, and we can have lots of compassion on people around us, that are having their own volcanoes. Because we realize, hey, the reason they're overreacting like that is because there's been a core issue triggered. There's pain underneath that bad behavior. And when we can have compassion on that pain, we're going to be a lot more responsive rather than reactive, a lot more patient, a lot more loving with people who are struggling with their own personal volcanoes. So I hope this has been helpful. Just that idea that the thing that really is driving big dramatic changes in our world, those big dramatic volcanoes, is our core issues that can be triggered by our environment on the outside. So anyway, hope this is helpful. We're going to go ahead and talk more about specifics in our next lesson and then have an action item for you. So see you soon. Thanks. Bye.